So grassland like this is one of the key features of most of our gardens. We all love a bit of grass. It creates open space, it creates a lovely sunny spot to sit out, and it can be a really great spot for wildlife too if you manage it in a few specific ways. So we're talking about diversifying the grass. Now I'm sitting at the end of my garden where I've got a sort of fairly wild area. I've got a couple of different meadow areas here that I wanted to talk to you about. Closer to the house, I've got a patch of traditional lawn that's kept much neater than this. And all of these areas are managed in these particular ways to just increase the diversity of plants that are growing in the grass. And that really increases the wildlife benefits, of course. So behind me here is my spring meadow. And in front of me, I've got my summer meadow. The spring meadow means that I stop cutting it at the end of the autumn. I leave it, it doesn't really do much in the winter time. It's very slowly growing. We've had a bit of a mild winter up until now, so it's been very slowly growing. But in the springtime, I've got bulbs that are going to come up here, and I've got some flowering plants too. I've got some oxlip that comes up through the grasses, and you can start this sort of a spring meadow. It can start really early. You can put in snowdrops to start the season really early on, maybe followed by bluebells, daffodils. I've got snake's head fritillary that come up a little bit later in the spring, and I let them stay there until they finish flowering, until the leaves have started drawing in some of that green down into the bulbs to really feed up the bulbs, and then I cut this short. So kind of May time I'm cutting this short, and I'm keeping it short for the rest of the year. In front of me my summer meadow, and I must admit this did used to be summer meadow, but a problem that I had, as I said, this is a bit of a wild area at the end of the garden. It's been reclaimed from quite wild land, and we did have some nettles, unfortunately, that were coming through in this area of meadow here. So it was becoming a bit of a problem. If you allow nettles to grow right through the summer season, the patch will get bigger and bigger. So a way to treat that sort of area is to create a spring meadow and just cut those nettles short through the bulk of their growing season, and that does the opposite. It makes the nettle patches shrink and shrink. So this is a new development to turn this into a spring meadow. But in front of me is my summer meadow, and it's sort of the opposite management for that. I keep it short until about May time, and then I let it grow, and it flowers away absolutely beautifully. There's all sorts of lovely meadow flowers in here. I overseeded this in the autumn with a local meadow seed mix. I just cut it quite short, raked up the ground to try and create a little bit of loose soil in between the plants that were already there, and sowed my seed over that. And I've overseeded it a few times in that way in the autumn time. And then, as I say, I let it grow through from about May until about August, September, and then I cut it short again, and it gets another cut in the autumn, but then it just sort of stays there until the spring, and then I'll keep it short till May, as I said. And yeah, since I've done that down here, it's been wonderful to see just the diversity of insects. Each year we come down and have a little look, and we see what's here, and it's just thrumming with insects. It's wonderful. All different types of bees, but so many different types of butterflies. Something you'll notice if you have any meadow patches, any areas with long grass, is there are particular butterflies you only ever see over long grass. So the skippers, beautiful bright orange little butterflies, really cute. And the brown family of butterflies, so the meadow browns, the wall browns, you only see these butterflies over long grasses because their caterpillars need long grasses to feed on. So it's fantastic to really add to the diversity of the insects in your garden. And you can create a very similar effect on your lawn. And of course, a lot of us have been joining in with No Mow May. So I joined in with that on my sort of proper lawn by the house last year, and let part of that grow long. It was really fun to do. But the rest of my lawn, and I've been gradually diversifying over the years and just trying to get some flowers into the grass that's kept short. And there are a number of flowers. If you do want to keep a neater lawn, you don't like the idea of letting it grow long, or it's not possible where you live, you can have a lovely traditional lawn kept nice and short. You can sit out on it in the summer, or the kids can play out on the grass, and you can still have loads of flowers in there. So in the springtime, at the moment I've got daisies, and I have Germander speedwell that come through, lovely little blue flowers, and they flower away, and I get lots of bees and insects sort of buzzing around the lawn, enjoying those. And then later in the year, the speedwell keeps going, and then I've got also self-heal that comes through, and I've got white clover and bird's foot trefoil as well later in the year, and they all will flower through a lawn perhaps cut your lawn on a slightly higher setting. Don't cut it on the very shortest one if you want them to be flowering pretty much all the time, no matter whether you've just cut it or not. But as I said, it is fun to then let a bit of it grow long and see how that improves the insect life in your garden. So last year we mowed all the way around the edges of the lawn, but we left a circle of grass to grow long in the middle. And I do advise, if you're going to let some of the lawn grow long, I would advise you to sort of create a patch and mow all the way around the edges of it. It makes it that much easier to maintain. It's much easier to cut it down at the end of the year. So you'd be cutting it kind of July, August, really, for a lawn one. It's easier to cut it down when you come to trim it, if you can get all the way around the edges of it. It also looks neater if it's not going up against fences or up against your beds and borders. It looks much neater to have a kind of a nice mown edge around those beds and borders or around those fences. It looks a bit more organised. It looks a bit more like you've planned it rather than that it's just kind of been neglected for that year. So aesthetic-wise, if you have the sort of neighbours that make comments on your garden, and I know some of us do have those sorts of neighbours, it can look a lot more cared for by mowing around the edges of a patch. So choose a shape. It could be a nice irregular shape, it could be a beautiful circle, it could be a rectangle or a square, and then make sure to get out there and have a little look. It was wonderful to see last year. We had damselflies and so many different types of hoverflies and butterflies and bees too. It was really, really lovely to get out and have a little look at that little patch of long grass that we left in the garden. I felt rather sad to cut it down at the end of the year. But now it's just part of the lawn. You can't even tell that we've done it. It's been mown a few times before the winter came on. So that's all looking great. Do be careful when you come to mowing your long grasses at the end of the year. Do be aware it's not just insects that love them. There may be some small animals living in there too. The one I find the most often is frogs. They just love to hide in amongst those long grasses. So the first cut, make sure you're cutting it quite long. And they'll all move out then once they realise they haven't got their lovely cover. And you'll be able to cut it short without worrying about it the next time that you come to cut it, when you come to mow it again after that first cut. So if there are any tips there that are useful to you for helping to diversify your grass, do give it a go, whether it's lawn with flowers in it or whether it's meadow areas or even larger patches of meadow and perhaps converted from areas of rough grass at the end of the garden. Give it a go and see what you find when you do so.